for those of you who just want those endings explained, well, let's just get right into this. Before getting into these endings proper, I want to quickly remind us of some context that will greatly help in understanding these endings. Before getting into the actual end, there is a fake-out ending. During this, our character attempts to enter the Penrose to see Ariane, but breaks her arm and is injured due to Falcon. Despite this, Elster boots back up after a short memory sequence, re-enters the Penrose, and steals parts from a dead Elster before descending back into hell, claiming she has a promise to complete. SIGNALIS has 3 main endings and 1 secret ending. In this video, I'll be going over what all 4 of these endings potentially mean. However, SIGNALIS is not a game of absolutes, and it is very hard, if
Okay, so I've been pronouncing it wrong
impossible,
this
to
whole time.
tell
It's
something
SIGNALIS.
true or absolute. So these
Signals.
interpretations are just my own, and feel free to disagree in the comments below. Getting into the first of these 3 main endings, we have the Weave ending. This ending is arguably the worst, as well as the easiest to get ending, being achieved by playing cowardly and running away from enemies rather than facing them. As punishment for playing the game like a speedrunner, you get the worst ending. In the Weave ending, we see Elster ultimately decides to leave the ship and Ariana beyond, directly stating, "In the end I had to leave you behind, but it's too much, forgive me." She then walks out into the
Wait,
desert.
I've been spelling it wrong too this whole time. That's wild.
To die akin to the many other dead Elsters we see in the fake-out ending. This ending can be seen as a complete failure of Elster's ambitions, and the clearly bad ending of the game, punishing the player for their cowardice earlier in the game, and seeing how it's the easiest ending to get, it's really no surprise it isn't a happy one. There is a bit more to add to this. First, the Elster in this ending is depicted without the armor she acquired during the fake-out ending, suggesting that this is not the Elster that we follow, but rather more likely one of those dead Elsters I mentioned earlier from that fake-out ending. Also, it should be
Whoa, so
noted
we
that
didn't
her
get the worst
statement of
ending. That's
"it's
a
too
W.
much,
That's a
forgive
W.
me"
We didn't get the
suggests that
worst
she
ending,
does
chat.
remember what the promise is, a fact I'll get back into later, but rather cannot enact what the promise requires her to do. From here we can head to the next main game ending, the memory ending. This ending is of moderate difficulty to get, and as of such some consider it to be a bittersweet good ending. In this ending we see Elster finally reunited with her love Ariane. However, Ariane has forgotten who she was. Elster is rapidly succumbing to her wounds, and ultimately just requests to be able to lie next to Ariane and pass away. To some, this is a good ending. Elster is able to spend her last moments next to Ariane and pass away along with her, most likely Ariane passing away due to being awoken from cryostasis and the health problems that she sustained prior to going into stasis. However, there's some in-game notions that go against the notion that this is a good ending. First, to acquire this ending, you must have high circle stats. Circle meaning, circular or, cyclical, an implication that suggests this ending is not an ending, but rather just another step in the process. This can be reinforced by Elster saying, "Please, just let me stay by your side a little longer," a statement that means she isn't quite ready to end the cycle and wishes to stay in the dream with Ariane a little bit longer. Next, in this ending, Elster is donning our Elster's gear, suggesting that if the cycle truly isn't over due to the promise not being completed and the implications of the circle, then this could easily be the dead Elster unit that we can steal parts from during the fake-out ending. If this is to be considered true, then following this ending, we assume that Ariana as the dreamer
Hold
is
on, hold on.
distorted and consumed
My
by the
sister's calling me. Sorry, chat. My sister was she was talking to me about getting a third cat. Let me start this video back up. So it seems like chat. It seems like we got one of the better endings at least. I kind of want to get the secret ending though.
Flesh, and in the process creates the last realm of the dream, a realm made of memories she has, or the final mission of the game. Until this realm too collapses, or is consumed by the flesh due to the decay of her psyche. If we accept all of that, then this ending should be seen as an absolute event that happened as part of the cycle, as part of the circle, but did not bring an end to the cycle or circle, and as of thus can't be really seen as a true definitive ending. There's another interesting thing to note with this ending. The spray used when Ariane states she doesn't remember Elster is a recolor of the spray used in the Falke boss fight. It is named end underscore Ariane underscore Falke. This is curious because it greatly resembles other sprites we see of Ariane, meaning that Folke and Ariane by the end look very similar to each other, and combined with the name of the sprite having Folke's name in it, could suggest more is going on here. Maybe even this isn't truly our Ariane, or our Ariane has been lost, but I think that is a little bit too far of a stretch. It's just something I'd like to bring up to note here with the file names. Next we can move on to the last of the main endings, and this one is called Promise. With a name such as Promise and Ariane's Promise being such a major part of the endings, it's easy to understand why this is the hardest to acquire ending, and personally the ending that I view as the canonical final end of the game. In this
Woo-hoo-hoo!
ending, once again, Elster arrives before an awake Ariane. However, this time, Ariane actually remembers Elster, and it's here that Ariane is able to remind Elster that she must complete the promise. The promise, this entire time, being to kill Ariane. Elster then reluctantly strangles Ariane to death before succumbing to her own wounds and passing away
Is
by her
that
side.
what's happening?
This ending to me represents a final ending, an end to the pain and suffering and to the cycle as a whole. This is supported by the need
That's
to
why her hands
refer
were
to the
like that.
stats required to
I didn't.
achieve
I
this
didn't know that.
as death, a symbolism that, in this case, both sides can finally have a final demise, as well as the process to achieving this ending requiring the killing of many enemies and having a high playtime, showcasing a general destruction of the cycle as a whole. There's also many quotes from this ending that support this ending representing a final and good ending, one of the largest being the clock finally hitting zero, an act that represents a final end to the cycle of pain that everyone was stuck in. Overall, this ending to me represents freedom through death for everyone involved, whereby through this small act of pain, the overall pain of everyone involved will finally end and everyone can rest in peace. So while it
Wow.
certainly doesn't seem happy, ending a nightmare is far better than being
Being
stuck
stuck
in
in
it
it
forever.
forever. Facts.
On the
Facts.
notion of being stuck in it forever, we arrive at the secret and final ending of the game. It is this ending that is certainly the most different than the other three. To begin with, this one does not need you to even fight Falk in order to acquire it. Rather, there is a secret puzzle one must do, and upon completing it, they will unlock this ending. The puzzle involves using secret keys and codes to unlock the large safe in Ariane's room. Upon doing so, we find a lily. Interacting with it, we see Elster placed upon an altar of a ritual. It then pans out to see various dead bodies behind the pillar. Next to the altar, these bodies seemingly being our main cast of characters, for it pans to the top to see an empty coffin of sorts with a strange artifact in its center. Then we see the penrose, before it scrolls up to reveal an eye in the sky. Then the screen flashes, remember our promise, before fading to reveal Ulster and Ariane dancing on the penrose. This one is clearly the most cryptic and raises the most questions as to what is actually going on here. So to start, let's address the steps to getting this ending. First, we have some codes. These codes are the same numbers that flash on the screen following the first reading of the king in yellow, and also the same codes that appear all throughout the game. This likely represents that whatever happens in this ending is relating to having a level of control over the power that the book bestows, as by using the wisdom or numbers he grants us, we attempt to control his power. Next, we have the keys. To get this ending, one will need 3 different keys. These keys are the key of sacrifice, the key of love, and the key of eternity. These keys to me each represent one part of the symbolism behind what this ending means. First is love. This symbolizes the manifestation of Elster's love for Ariane. She loves her so much that she is unable to complete the promise and would rather just be able to be with her forever. Next is eternity. This suggests and contextualizes what is exactly being done by this ritual. Elster is creating a new cycle or a new moment of eternity, but one that allows her to be with Arion forever. Finally, sacrifice. She is sacrificing our main cast, either literally using their souls and existence to fuel her creation, or figuratively by stating that they are doomed to suffer within the cycle forever while she escapes. We also must consider where the safe is. The safe is located within Arion's room, right behind the desk she used to use, and where the King of Yellow rests. This safe is something dear to Arion, and by accessing it, it could represent that this action Elster moves closer to Arion, in the creation of her own cycle and realm, akin to how Arion created her own cycle and realm, but much more focused and dedicated than the failed realm that Arion created, as Arion created a realm in a decaying, dying state while she was supposed to be in dormancy, while Elster is creating a realm purposefully, for a reason. If anything, the usage of the codes reinforces that Elster is better and more experienced user of these abilities than even the strongly bioresonant Arion. Then we have the lily itself. The lily as a flower represents purity, but in this case it seems to instead symbolize the symbol for lesbian love, with its name in the files even being Yuri, suggesting how this is the result when Elster's love for Arion is too strong to allow her to fulfill the promise she made to Arion. But there's more to cover. The ritual shows pillars that strongly resemble the graves of Nowhere, reinforcing that the sacrifice that Elster makes here is at the cost of the souls of the rest of the cast. And an empty grave in the center, perhaps representing where Arion should lie if the proper action was taken, but that she is instead sacrificing them to prevent Arion from lying in rest. It should also be added that this ritual is seen before in the game, though due to it flashing quickly on the screen, it's something a lot of us missed, and this was during the fake out ending. Its name in the fake out ending is Graber, which means grave, and implies that this process has either happened before, likely Arion when she created the original cycle, or maybe even a past Elster already did something. Or we could consider that just something that the fake out ending predicts as part of the future, seeing how time is not really linear in this situation. Then we get to the artifact. This is the artifact that appears in the game's logo and should be seen as a physical item used to create the cycles, both for Arion in the main cycle and now Elster in the ending. Or it could be seen as a physical manifestation of someone having the ability to do so. If they have this item, then they can create cycles. Either way, it is something that is integral to having the ability to distort reality the level that both dreamers do. In the files, the subject is called a tesseract, which is a cube in the fourth dimension, reinforcing that this item is what's distorting not just reality but time itself in this situation. Regardless, following the depiction of this item, we see the Penrose landing on a planet, a dream that the two pilots had ever since they took off from their homeworld, and their pointless adventure into space seemingly finally having a purpose. However, the panel reveals they are still being observed. On one hand, this could be the King of Yellow looking down at the two of them, granting Elster the power to create this new dream, and on the other hand, this could be Ariane looking down from her dream at this new pocket dream that Elster has created, judging her for her failure to fulfill the promise she made. It is then that the promise is mentioned again, clearly articulating that this ending does not in any way fulfill the promise, meaning Ariane will not die and the cycle will not end. Rather, she will now never die and the cycle has been renewed completely. Finally, we can consider with the final waltz between the two main characters. To begin the scene, it really has a much negative toned recreation of the Penrose simulation dash memory that occurred earlier in the game, following the fake out. We remember from that scene, it wasn't reality, but really kind of a flashback or maybe even a recreation of events by Ariana's dream. But this scene, this time, is much more negative in its toning, much darker, much more grim, and we can actually look into the discoveries within the code to reinforce this finding. First, the model of the final version we see of Ariane is named Body Texture Ghost, and the model has tendrils around her arms and legs, which reinforces this negative connotation that this ending is not a good one, but rather the embodiment of the blind love of Elster into a new dreamed reality that is only for her own personal happiness. When questioning if the Lotus ending is better than the Promise ending, I've seen people really divided. And personally, I hold my preference evidently with the Promise ending. I think its finality and closure it offers is preferable than the fake promises made with a god beyond humanity's grasp that the Lotus ending implies. But that's just my interpretation. Feel free to have your own and feel free to disagree with me. SIGNALIS, as I said earlier, is not a game that, gives away clear answers. I don't think there's such thing as a wrong answer here. There's just the endings and the answers that we prefer to lean into. On that note, it is time to close out the video. But before I do so, I'd like to say, if you are a SIGNALIS fan and would like to participate further in this discussion, I have linked in the description below the unofficial SIGNALIS Discord. It's a really chill place filled with theorists and fans alike. I'm sure you guys would enjoy your time there. Also, all information in this video that referenced the game's files that was really possible thanks to the Redditors over on the SIGNALIS Reddit. I will have
Should I
their
join the
work
Reddit
linked below
in the Discord chat? Should I join the Reddit in the Discord? I'll join the Reddit in the Discord. Well, W Mans, I think you go check his video out. I'll give a this is definitely gonna be a YouTube video. So I will give a link. I will give a link to all of that in the description of the YouTube video. Yeah.